And joining us now is Behnam Taleblu with the Foundation for Defense of Democracy. Behnam, thanks so much for being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, first off, there's disagreement over the purpose of the Middle East Summit in Warsaw. Some see it as a broad discussion about regional issues, but others say it's really about containing Iran. Even our closest Middle East ally, Israel, says so. So what's the goal here and why the mixed messaging?
In some ways, I don't really see how those two goals are actually quite contradictory. In fact, I see them as quite complementary. When you look at the vast majority of hotspots in the Middle East today, there's often an Iranian component to it, often an Iranian problem to it. Not saying every single one, but the vast majority of them have an Iranian dimension. And it's important to bring the region together and the transatlantic community together to find a way to offset the Iranian threat and solve some of those problems. So I think whether it's cyber security, missile proliferation, anti-money laundering, terrorism, finding new ways to constrain rising revisionist actors, all of that touches on Iran. But also all of that touches on our regional interests and our allied interests.
Well, as you just indicated, Iran is busy creating a lot of problems in the Middle East, all while the administration wants to isolate the regime. What's the best way to apply pressure on Tehran if our European allies are still trying to make the Iran nuclear deal work?
You know, it's most unfortunate that our European allies appear to be willing to cut off their own nose to spite their face. I would say that in the past 6 to 9 months, you've seen a remarkable success story emerge for U.S. unilateral sanctions. And those unilateral sanctions are one way that the U.S. can kind of keep and maintain the pressure on the regime. The way we need to do this throughout 2019, of course, is to continue to expand the scope of targets that we sanction, designate, and penalize, make sure that European banks and businesses are fully out of there, that we punish anyone who tries to create an alternative payment system with Iran, and also we make sure that that pressure from above, from foreign sources, is complementary with pressure that's already on the regime from below. It's telling that Tehran does not necessarily fear a foreign military threat. It fears its own people, its own population. And we should make sure that the Iranian people have the tools they need for popular representation and emancipation.
The Iranian economy is certainly feeling the squeeze. But what about to the critics who'd say this shows why it was wrong for the administration to pull out of the deal, especially if inspectors are saying that Iran has been technically compliant?
Well, those are a couple of important issues that we have to thread here, because I'm someone who was a fierce critic of the JCPOA nuclear deal, but I was also not a fan of the way the administration withdrew from the deal. But now that we have withdrawn from the deal, there's no sense in crying over spilled milk. And when you see some analysts and people in Washington say that Tehran, that the U.S., whatever U.S. administration comes after the Trump administration, should rejoin the deal, that kind of thing only incentivizes Tehran to double down, to wait harder, and to actually not come to the table when the sanctions pressure is actually hurting it. I think that we need to be genuine here. We need to apply maximum pressure, but also hold out a hand and say, we are willing to talk, but if you are going to talk seriously, not to run the clock on us like you did with the last time.
Behnam, we only have about a minute left. So just this week, a senior commander of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards threatened to level Israeli cities if the U.S. attacked Tehran. What worries you most about Iran, and what happens if the threat isn't contained?
So an area that I've been focusing on is the Iranian ballistic missile threat. Iran tests ballistic missiles capable of carrying nuclear warheads. Iran proliferates missiles to its regional partners and proxies. And Iran, of course, is reverse engineering missile technology and purchasing technology to make its own missiles go farther and become more accurate. So this is one area where you want to be able to constrain Iran's purchasing networks abroad and then target the domestic ballistic missile industry at home. And there's ample space to do that.
Behnam Taleblu with the Foundation for Defense of Democracy, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.